We'll have a reading from Rays of the One Light. And this is a book, Weekly Commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita, based on Yogananda's teachings by Swami Kriyananda. And the subject this week is Easter, resurrection for every soul. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it, with your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. In the Gospel of St. John, chapter 20, we read the inspiring account of Jesus' resurrection. The first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene, early when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, and seeth the stone taken away from the sepulchre. Then she runneth, and cometh to Simon Peter, and to the other disciple, whom Jesus loved, and saith unto them, They have taken away the Lord. Then the same day at evening, being the first day of the week, when the doors were shut, where the disciples were assembled for fear of the Jews, came Jesus, and stood in their midst, and saith unto them, Peace be unto you. The resurrection of Jesus, doubted by many, but affirmed by those who were close to him, was a miraculous event, though one not unique in history. For many great saints of other religions have appeared to their disciples after death. Sometimes their appearances have been as that of Jesus was, in flesh and blood form, and not only in vision. Paramahansa Yogananda relates in Autobiography of a Yogi the account of his guru, Sri Yukteswar's resurrection after his earthly passing. Miracles of this type are revealed only rarely to the masses, but accounts of them related by men and women of reputed truthfulness have inspired many devotees with faith in the reality of subtler than material states of existence. Resurrection, Yogananda explained, means transformation, ultimately from any lower state of being to a higher one. Worldly consciousness cannot imagine such transformation except in terms of, perhaps, an improvement of the present mess of pottage with the addition of a new flavoring. Divine consciousness, however, is capable of taking the base metal of worldliness and transforming it into the spiritual gold of divine wisdom and love. In keeping with this truth, the Bhagavad Gita in the 9th chapter tells us, ye who into this ill world are come, fleeting and false, set your faith fast on me. Fix heart and thought on me. Adore me. Bring offerings to me. Make me prostrations. Make me your supremest joy. And undivided unto my rest your spirits shall be guided. Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
I'm going to read the Whispers from Eternity by Paramahansa Yogananda. This one's a little bit long. Come to me, O Christ, as the divine shepherd of souls. O Christ, thou rarest flower of hearts, thou didst sail the storm-tossed lake of prejudiced minds. Its evil-scented, gloomy thought waves lashed thy lily-tender soul. They crucified thee with their evil. Yet didst thou shed on them the aroma of goodness and forgiveness, and help them to be purified by remorse, to make them attractively sweet-scented with thine all-loving soul flower. O thou great lover of all error-torn brothers, an unseen monument of the mightiest miracle of love was established in every heart when the magic of thy voice uttered, Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Thou hast healed the cataract of hatred. We have now grown to see thy truth. Love thine enemies as thyself, for they are thy brothers, those sick and sleeping. Thou hast taught us not to increase their fevered blows of hatred with the bludgeons of revenge. Thine undying sympathy has inspired us to heal our brothers, suffering in their delirium of anger with the soothing salve of divine forgiveness. Thy crucifixion reminds us of the daily crucifixion, of our own fortitude by trials, of our wisdom by ignorance, of our self-control by the scathing touch of temptation, and of our love by misunderstanding. Thy test on the cross proved the victory of divine wisdom over ignorance, of thy divine soul over flesh, of thy happiness over pain, and of thy love over hatred. So we are heartened to bear our own crosses bravely and with faith. Teach us, when we are crucified by harshness, to pour out only sweetness, to bear with calmness the assaults of worry, and to give understanding unceasingly to those who unjustly hate us. O Shepherd of souls, wandering hearts are seeking of themselves the one fold of divine devotion. We have heard the ever-calling music of thy infinite kindness. Our one desire is to find our home in thee, to receive the cosmic Father with the joyous, open eyes of wisdom, and to know that all of us are sons of our own one God. Teach us to conquer the Satan of dividing selfishness, which prevents the gathering of all our brother souls into the one fold of spirit, calling to one another by the watchword, love him who loves you, and love all who love you not. Let us rally beneath the canopy of the universal oneness of the Christ. Amen.
Being Easter, and I don't know if we'll get to, but we have a nice banquet planned. All of you are welcome to come, and we might be having it outside. I see a little flicker of sun out there, so please know that you're welcome to be here. And also, there's a couple things that have happened within this Ananda community lately. I just wanted to bring to your attention. We have a ceremony at Ananda Village up in Nevada City, California, where Ananda began in 1968. And that ceremony is called the Attunement Ceremony. And at that ceremony, we welcome new people, we honor people that have done wonderful things, and I wanted to honor 3 people today. One is Sonia, her mom, her husband, who also had a part in this. They have a new baby, and we want to bless you. And do you want to bring him up and show him to everyone? So, how old is wait a minute, Himraj? How old is he today? 7 weeks old. So, let's welcome him. A beautiful little boy. In the tradition of Ananda and probably ancient India, let's rub our hands together. Feel the energy there coming through the medulla out into your hands. You feel the magnetism there, the energy there. And yeah, let's stand up and just send Himraj, Baljinder, Sonia, and Mom all our love. Oh, welcome into this family. We do have a baptism service, so maybe we can do that one of these days. And that at that service, Lexi and Gracie will sing to him. We have a special song. Okay, thank you very much. And I'd like to ask Lori and Dharma Devi to come up too. They've both taken their Sevaka vows, which are vows of membership into Ananda, and they both took them. Lori recently up in Palo Alto and Dharma Devi this morning. So just wanted to, let's bless them. So could you come up and do that? I can't do that.
So let's rub our hands once again.
No, that's all. Let's see, we're getting already late, aren't we? Well, I have a sort of a little joke here for our girls that braved the great weather and came to service today. Thank you for your presence. And I was thinking this morning, there's a great, when Dharma Devi was reading about killing our brothers and trying to rise above that thought in our minds, that there's a great little story. There's a book called Letters from God, Letters to God, Children's Letters to God, or something like that. And there's one in there that it reminded me of, and one of them is this child writes to God and says, "Dear God, I hear that Cain and Abel weren't able to get along and they killed each other. I have a solution. When that thought comes into my mind, my mom decided to put us in separate bedrooms. Maybe you should tell people to do that." So I think you have separate bedrooms anyway, don't you? So that's good. But anyway, this day of Easter is such a joyful day. I love it. It's the resurrection of the soul. It's the promise that the promise of immortality, the promise that we will all get to exactly where we want to be, and that is happiness in the truest sense all the time in every situation. And right now that might not seem possible, but that is the promise that this day brings to us. And we were in the house, been watching the movie Jesus of Nazareth, the Zeffirelli version. And it's absolutely splendid if you ever get a chance to watch it. It's so uplifting. But the story of Jesus, and especially for those of you who aren't as familiar with the story of Jesus, here was a regular guy. He was born unusual circumstances, certainly the way he was born. But no one really knew. He was a child in the village, and he grew up. And then he started to show signs of deep wisdom. And so when he was 12 years old, he was found teaching the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And they were Jewish. He grew up Jewish. He was Jewish in the Jewish tradition. But he had different ideas than the regular run-of-the-mill people, than even the kings, than the great priests. He was very different. And he went away for a long time. And the Bible doesn't tell the years that he was in India, but he did go to India. And he studied with the great Indian masters there. And when he came back, he only had 3 years, really, to do his work and teaching about God in this new way. This was the time of the world that was the Dark Ages. There's all these different yugas, they call them in India. And there are ages like the Bronze Age and Golden Age and Silver Age that we have in Greek and Roman times. In the Dark Age, if you see it as a big circle, the Dark Ages are at the bottom. And that's the time when Jesus lived. And people only understood things if they could see them. They couldn't really understand, how would we even understand airplanes and television? I don't even understand them today. When I see one of those airplanes go up, it amazes me it stays in the air, but it does. Thank goodness. But that was an age you couldn't even conceive of even having such a thing. It was just, if I see it, I can believe it. And that's what it was. It was about the law. Jesus came to show about the Spirit, about loving your brothers and sisters, about loving your friends, about loving those who hate you. It was very new. They were having a difficult time with this concept. And one of the stories that's depicted in this movie that I like, and many of you know the story of Mary Magdalene, and she was a lady who did some not so nice things, maybe. Anyway, she had a hard time, and she was condemned by everyone in the town. No one liked her. No one took her in. No one was her friend. She lived alone. And there's two incidents that I wanted to talk about. One is when she first, at least from the Gospels, from what we know, the first time she saw Jesus, and she had heard about him. And so Jesus was going up on this mountain, and thousands of people were coming to hear him. Because if you had heard somebody really interesting, you might want to hear, what does he have to say? So what were they saying? That he healed the sick, that blind people were now cured and they could see, and people that were dead were now alive. This was miraculous things. How could this be? So they wanted to go and hear him speak. And so these thousands of people were going up on the hillside. And they got up there and they were hungry and they wanted to eat. Well, nobody had brought anything to eat except 2 loaves and fishes. 5 loaves and fishes? I'm not sure. There were 5 and 2. Thank you, Martin. 5 loaves and 2 fishes. Martin was there, I think. And so how are they going to feed all these people? And the disciples of Jesus Christ are there going, but Jesus says, feed them. They're saying, how can we feed them? There's no food. And he says, feed them. And so all of a sudden they take what they have, like some of us do. You know, you just take what's given to you. You don't know how you're going to do it, but you just take what's in front of you and you try to do the best you can. Well, all of a sudden, the loaves and the fishes were multiplying and multiplying and multiplying. How many people that were there? There must have been 10,000 people there. How many people really understood what was happening? Most of them, I'm sure, were so happy to be fed that they didn't even know. They didn't know, they didn't understand, and they probably didn't care. All they cared about was that there was food that they could eat. But who did notice? The disciples were right there in complete awe. This was at the beginning of Christ's message. They had heard, they had seen some things, but this was so miraculous. They were absolutely in bliss, watching their master feed these people. And Mary was also there, and she is stunned. She doesn't know any more than anyone else in that throng, but she is stunned because she can see who Christ is. That's the difference. Later on, Jesus is with the disciples, and he's talking, and he says to them, who do people say I am? And they say, well, some say you're John the Baptist, and some say you're Elisha, and some say you're Elijah. And then he turns to Simon, whose name was Simon Peter, but his name at that point was Simon. He said, Simon, who do you say I am? And he said, you are the living Christ, the Son of God. And he says, come. And he comes up and he says, bless you. Upon this rock I will build my church. I will call you Peter, which means rock. I will build my church. What does he mean by church? I don't think he means like an edifice. I think he means the foundation of faith that brought us all here today. That's what he's talking about. I will build that foundation of faith. What happened? How was Peter able to know that Christ was the Son of God? Just because he did miracles? No. But in here. And we would say, because we are practicing meditation, that it would come through meditation. We learn inner guidance. We learn to develop that intuition so that we can know what is right for ourselves. We can tune our will into God's will. That's how we know. That's how we believe these masters that have come, not just because we're told, but because we know by our meditations, by our understanding, by our faith. So when Mary comes to Jesus later on, I love the way they do it in the movie. Again, in the Bible, it talks about the disciples together, and Mary Magdalene comes and she washes Jesus' feet, and Judas says, "Why are you letting her waste that expensive ointment when there's people hungry?" And Jesus said, "You will always have people that are hungry." She is expressing devotion. That is a rare thing in the movie, which I love. Jesus is talking to the Pharisees and Sadducees, and he is talking with them. I don't know in the Bible. I don't know the Bible perfectly at all. But I don't remember in the Bible where he's really, really talking to them a lot and trying to understand them, and they, him. There's a little bit of talk, but in this movie where Zeffirelli is trying to put it all together, he's talking to them. And they're saying, but it's the law that says this. It's the law that says you can't practice on the Sabbath. It's the law. That's the only thing that they can comprehend is the law. And Jesus says, you have to go by love. Mary bursts in. She comes, she lays her head on his feet. She's crying. Tears of joy are bathing his feet. And he is there with this beautiful look on his face. I would say stunned, except I think he knew. All the other priests are stunned. How could this woman even be let into our presence? We are very important people. And we don't let these people into our presence. And there she was. And Jesus let her come. And she takes this ointment and she rubs his feet. And he looks at her and he says, "Daughter, by your faith, you are healed. Go and sin no more." By your faith. Peter, by your faith you know me. By your intuition. It's not all these outward things. What is happening inside? We meditate. We watch. We read the stories. We know what is ours. That is the beauty of Easter. We see this. And what are the two sort of topics really of this day one is the faith, which I've talked about, and one is the courage. Dharma Devi read about Good Friday, the courage. He knew he was going to die. He knew they were going to put him up on a cross. He knew that the people hated him. Why did they hate him? No reason in the world. It was a mob. It was incited. They were excited. First of all, they're praising him. The next minute, they're crucifying him. This fickle world that we live in. Why did he do this? And it says, we had a retreat yesterday. And it was beautiful, just a beautiful time sharing Master's voice and meditating and purification. And at the end, we played this hour-long time of Bhagavati and Ramesha led us in the music of Swamiji's. Swami Kriyananda is a direct disciple of Yogananda, who is, if you don't know, this man over here. And he went to the Holy Land a few different times, and he wrote the music, I believe, in some say 83, 85, is when we learned the music to the oratorio, and it's the story of Christ's life in music. Beautiful choir pieces, solos, trios, or instrumentals, and it tells a story, and Swamiji went to all these places in Jerusalem, in the Galilee, at the Dead Sea, and he was trying to feel the presence, the vibration of Christ. And he got this word, through his intuition, to write this music. And they played it, and we sang it. It was so extraordinary, the power of it, that I want to share it with you today. I wanted to do two, but I think I'm not going to have time, so we're going to do one of them. And I think because I love this day so much, and it's such a day of joy, that we're going to focus on Mary Magdalene's joy. The other one I wanted to play is Jesus in Gethsemane, as he's talking to God, and he's saying, "Let this cup pass from me." It's not that he doesn't want to do God's will, but, it's that human moment. Do I have to do this? And then, what does he say? Yes, I will do it. I will join my will with yours, and I will go forth. But his sadness wasn't for himself. His sadness was for all the people who did not understand. When he was coming in to Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, and he stopped on the Mount of Olives, and he's overlooking the city, and he knows what's going to come, and he stops and he weeps for Jerusalem. "Oh, Jerusalem, I wanted to help you. You would not listen." And then he goes in Palm Sunday, last Sunday we know, and he's praised. A week later, he's crucified. What does that mean for us? I'm not going to forget. What does that mean for us? It means to have the courage to go through what you don't think you can do. Have the courage to say yes to life. As Sister Gyanamata said, Yogananda's foremost woman disciple, say yes and make it snappy. If you're asked to do something, do it, and do it the best you can. It will lead you to your next step. It will lead you to freedom. This day is about resurrection, transmutation, and it's about joy. So we are going to listen. I want you all to close your eyes. And this is the song of Mary Magdalene. She's singing. And as you listen to this, the words are, "I am thine, thou art mine, hand in hand forever. Loving thee, I live free, dancing in thy light. Naught that I was remains. Gone is the night. Now I rest ever blessed, led by thy sight. I am thine, thou art mine, hand in hand forever." And this is the song of the devotee who has conquered, of the devotee who was in darkness and then found the light through believing, through knowing, through going inside and saying, "I want this for myself because I can live in joy all the time when so I think." So let's imagine you're with her and dancing with her in the light. Soul in darkness, and then she's holding the hand of her divine friend. Who was this man? Can you imagine? Just imagine what it would be like for you to see this man who raised people from the dead, who brought joy into dark hearts, and who gave them the promise of freedom. When his mother Mary was at the cross, there's a author, Cahill Gibran, who writes about the devotees of Christ. And when he writes about Mother Mary, he talks about her at that moment when she's with him, when he's on the cross. And for all intents and purposes, it looks like this man is suffering. Of course, he was in joy. But everyone there is in awe of the power that he still has, the innate power to do God's will. And not just to do God's will, but to do it in joy. But she is there, and if you're a mother, you can just imagine, my son, she says, who is not my son. My son who is not my son. She knew who he was, but she was a mother. This is her son. And it's so poignant because we all live this. We know in our hearts who he was. We know who Master was. But even they know when they're suffering, it's real to us. When Krishna was a baby, his mother, he was always stealing butter and cheese. He loved butter and cheese. And he was always stealing it because he loved it so much. And he got away with it because he was so adorable. But there was one time Yashoda's mother, she was just determined to get that butter out of his mouth. And so she opens up his mouth, and what does she see? She doesn't see butter. She sees this vast kingdom of cosmic consciousness. She sees who he really is, this child of the infinite. And she's taken into this realm of super consciousness, on, and planets and stars and galaxies, and then she closes his mouth. Why? Because she wants her son back. She wants that little child to love and play with. But she knows Christ came and was resurrected so that we really know what we're here for, what we're here about. And all that stuff we have trouble with, it will all be, like in the fire ceremony, it will all be free in God's light at some point. And we just have to do the best we can every day in front of us. I promised Baravi that I would tell a story about Easter because the girls braved it. This was sort of your cross today, huh, coming to service. So because you did it and with so much joy, I'm going to tell you a story, and I'll try to make it really fast. It's a story of the country bunny. And I don't know I know you're a little old, but still. How old are you? 9, still good. So there's this wonderful story that was my favorite story as a child. It's the story of the country bunny. And the country bunny, when she was little, real little, she wanted to be an Easter bunny. And at that point, there wasn't just one Easter bunny. There were 5 Easter bunnies. And they all had the specific job of going around the night before Easter and hiding eggs. You'll be glad to know that bunny hid eggs here today for you to find. But later, Brooke actually hid them, and I don't know. You're going to be able to find them pretty easily, I think. So, nice job, Brooke. So outside, there are real eggs. Inside, there's spiritual eggs for everyone. Actually, just the adults, because I don't know if we'll have enough. But when you find your spiritual egg, keep it all year on your altar. And everyone has a little saying that you can use. Whatever one you find is supposed to be yours. So don't put it back because you don't like it. So, back to the country bunny who came. And so she wanted to be a Easter bunny, but they all laughed at her because, she was just sort of a poor country bunny. She wasn't a big, important city bunny like us. And so she grew up, and lo and behold, one morning, she found she had 21 children. That's what bunnies do. And that was a lot of kids. And there's the cutest picture of them all in this cradle together, 21 of them. And so she had a lot to do. And she sort of let go of this thought of being the Easter bunny. But as they grew up, she decided that it was a little hard to get all the housework done by herself. So she trained them all. This is a good thing for you guys to know. She trained them all, and 2 of them did the sweeping. 2 of them did the laundry. 2 of them did the ironing. 2 of them cooked all the food. 2 of them, more and more things. All the things we do. Dusted and whatever. And 20 of them had jobs. Oh no, this is very important. 2 of them sang for the others. That's a very good one. And it's really fun for me. When I read that, I thought, that's fantastic, because none of them complained that I have to sweep and you get to sing. It was all equal. I love that. So 2 of them sang and kept the rest of them happy while they were working hard. But there was one bunny left, the 21st bunny. And he was a little bit sad. And he was sort of the runt. He was the little guy. And she said, well, because you are the most serviceful and kind of all my bunnies, you will be the one that pulls out my chair when I sit to eat. Now, when did that tradition go away? I don't know. I wish it were still around, but my children didn't do that either. And so that's what he did. So they grew up and they were very disciplined. So anyway, there was a rumor that was going around that one of the 5 esteemed bunnies had died and they needed a new Easter bunny. And the bunnies had to be swift, they had to be kind, they had to be wise. I think those are the 3. And so they all gathered, and the grandfather bunny came forward, and he was trying to pick a bunny. And all the real hotshot bunnies, the jocks, they were up there, and they had their tuxedos on, and they're running, and they're showing how fast they are. And the grandfather's looking, yeah, you're pretty impressive, but I'm not sure you're so kind and humble, and I'm not sure. And then he saw the country bunny, and on each side of her, this long string of little bunnies. And he says, well, what's your name? She said, well, I'm just the country bunny. And he said, I bet you have a lot of patience. All her children looked very kempt, very dressed up. She said, yes, I have a lot of patience. He said, well, you must have a lot of housework to do. And she said, no, actually, they do all the housework. Oh, well, because you're so busy with your children, you must not be very fast. And she said to the children, go. And all the children went running, and she ran and she caught them all. He said, oh, you're very fast. And you're very wise to train them that way, and you're very kind. I think I'll make you my next bunny. So she was the next Easter bunny. Well, the story goes on, but I will end the story with she had her basket of eggs, and her job was to take them to certain people. And if you guys want to see the pictures from this book, I have it upstairs. They're fantastic. She walks into this hall, and there are so many Easter eggs in there. They're piled everywhere. There's thousands of them. And she takes her little basket, and she starts hopping, and she goes all around, delivers her eggs. But then the grandfather bunny says, I have a very special one for you to deliver. And that's to this little boy that's very sick. He's been sick all year. And no one can get to him because he lives on the top of a very high mountain. And she says, what did she say? Yes, I will try. So she goes and she gets there and she starts hopping up this really steep mountain. And she keeps falling down. She tries again and she keeps falling down. And then she hurts herself. And she doesn't know what to do because she can't get up. And all of a sudden, the grandfather bunny's there. And he said, because of your courage and your kindness and your faith, I'm going to give you a special present. And he brings out from behind him a little pair of golden shoes. They're just little. They're bunny size, not very big. And he puts them on her, and magically she soars up the mountain. And she has to do it in a couple jumps, but she gets to the top, and there's this beautiful little boy still just before dawn. And he's sleeping, and she puts the egg there, and then she leaves. And she goes back, and she's the Easter Bunny for many years to come. But the story that I love about this is the courage. Never saying no when things get hard, always doing it and doing it with joy. And so that is the Easter message